The encouraging word for the day will focus on our grandparents. Are you blessed to be a grandparent? Maybe you're not there yet. Are you a grandchild and a blessing to the older people in your family? I hope that you are. Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 6 is our encouraging word for the day. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children is their father. I personally am not a grandparent, but I believe that I will be one day. And the greatest thing I could do for my grandchildren as I look off into the future is I need to be just like my grandfather was when I was a kid. Both my grandparents were filled with love, and they supported us in everything that we did. They were always at our baseball, basketball, and football games. They were at all of our school plays, choir performances, and tennis matches. But my grandfather stood out to me because he was so relaxed. He was so calm. He was never worried, always singing or whistling really all day long. He loved the Lord, and he trusted in his word. And his love for God and his love for God's word was reflected in his life and really the way that he behaved. I just looked up a song in the last couple of days, a song that I heard him sing every day. It seemed like as he walked through the house, he always had this song that he would sing. And so I've thought my whole life, is that even a real song or did he make it up? And so I looked it up just a few days ago, and sure enough, it's a real song. As I think back on my grandfather and the life that he lived in front of us, I realized that there was a time or two when we pushed him to the limit, by misbehaving or fighting with each other. And there were moments when he briefly lost his mind. But those times were few and far between. And even then, if he really totally lost it, his return to sanity was always so graceful. He would sit down with us and talk to us calmly. He would ask us if we understood what it was that we had done and why he reacted the way that he did. And there was a lesson there for us to learn, and he made sure, even in those difficult times, that we learned the lesson at hand. Grandparents are amazing people, and they should have all the respect and reverence that they deserve from their children and from their grandchildren. I have a list here of things that have been recorded. It says this was taken from papers written by a class of 8-year-olds. And so I just want to read a couple of these to you because it's interesting to see what little kids think about, 8-year-old children think about their grandparents. One student wrote, "My grandmother lives at the airport, and when we want her, we just go get her. Then when we're done having her visit, we take her back to the airport." Another student said, "Grandparents are a lady and a man who have no children of their own. They like other people's kids." Another kid says this, "Grandparents don't have to do anything except be there when we come to see them. They are too old to play hard, and they're too old to run. When they take us for walks, they slow down for things like pretty leaves and caterpillars. They never say the words, 'Hurry up.'" Another kid simply wrote, "They wear glasses and funny underwear. They can take their teeth and their gums out." One other kid wrote, "Everybody should try to have a grandmother, especially if you don't have television, because grandparents are the only grown-ups who like to spend time with us." Oh man, that's sad. Finally, another child wrote, "They know we should have snack time before bedtime, and they say prayers with us every time, and they kiss us even when we've acted bad." It's interesting to think about grandparents and what they mean to children in the moment, but then again thinking about our grandparents and what they mean to us, what mine mean to me, and what yours mean to you long term. Grandparents have a point of view too. A few famous quotes. "Being a grandparent means you can be as silly as you want to be." Another grandparent said this, "Some of our greatest blessings call us grandma and grandpa." A grandmother, one young person wrote, "A grandmother pretends she doesn't know who you are on Halloween." I love that. A grandparent is a little bit parent, a little bit teacher, and a little bit best friend. And again, if you think about children and grandchildren's perspective of their grandparents, one child said of their mother and father who were just recently grandparents, "Grandparents are there to help the child get into mischief they haven't thought of yet." That's interesting. When grandparents enter the door, discipline flies out the window. That is so true. I love to hear grandparents when they say, when our grandkids come over, we fill them full of sugar and then send them home. And it's true. Grandparents, when they were parents, they knew what discipline was. They enforced it. And they become grandparents and they seem to forget all about that. When grandparents enter the door, discipline flies out the window. Here's one I love from Grandpa. It says, having grandchildren does not make a man feel old. It's the realization that he's married to somebody's grandmother that really makes him feel old. Proverbs 17:6. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children is their father. To all of you who are a blessing to be grandparents, love your children, love your children's children, and realize the precious gift that God has placed into your hands, into your lap, and into your life. I mentioned earlier that my grandfather was such a special person to me in my life, and one that I will always look up to, and I explained why, because of his calmness, his approach of never being overly worried, but understanding that there was a way, with every problem there was a solution, and that God has provided those good and helpful ways to us to live out our lives. I would love to speak to my grandfather at this day and age, and I can't, and I really only have one thing that he's written directly to me. I have one note from my grandfather that I still have today, and it's written on the insert of a King James Bible that he gave to me in 1986. Written in that insert, it simply says, "To Danny Simmons on his 11th birthday, may you always be a student of God's Word and believe in its contents. Love ya, Papa." The one thing written to me from my grandfather is this: may you always be a student of God's Word and believe in its contents. And I know with even just that simple message, as he gave me that Bible on that day, this Bible on that day, that if I do what he's asked me to do, be a student of God's Word and believe in what's found inside of it, that someday I will be reunited with him in glory forever. And that is a beautiful thing. God is greater than time, and he will bring all of his children home together someday. And I hope to be there with my grandfather, one who loved and trusted the Lord and served him faithfully his whole life. The truth is, if you're a grandparent today, we must realize that our young people need something stable to hang on to. There's so many things that are shaky and unsure. Our young people need something stable to hang on to. They need a culture connection which allows them to have a sense of their own past and a powerful hope for their own futures. Your presence and your influence can never be measured. Some lessons you teach will not be fully realized until long after you are gone, and I'm living proof of that. There are no words to describe the happiness you feel when you hold your baby's baby.